Like so many of us that started gaming in the 80s, my first experiences with Dungeons and Dragons were from the basic sets. The red box, the blue box, the companion set. And so, shortly into our campaign, after we had been playing for maybe 6 months, my DM introduced me to this. And this was a game changer. This is X1. This is the Isle of Dread. This was the first Hexcrawl for many of us. Whenever we started playing in a Hexcrawl, we weren't limited anymore to a standard dungeon or a wizard's tower or the occasional cave with a dragon at the end. No, this was different. The Hexcrawl allowed us to explore the world around us in a way that felt like anything could happen. And largely that was true. The DMs did have to fill in a lot of the spaces on their own. They had to react to how the players interacted with the world that they had created. And this particular Hexcrawl was very interesting because it had that lost world vibe to it. We were fighting dinosaurs, and who knew that could be a thing in D&D at the time? And, it really brought out that sense of wonder and adventure in a way that has been hard to match ever since then. That is, until I found Hot Springs Island. Hot Springs Island is like someone took the Isle of Dread and added some 1980s hair metal to it. So let's take a little bit of a dive into what is Hot Springs Island and see if it's right for your table. Without further ado, let's check it out.
Very special because if you can see,
Yeah.
the numbers all go to 11.
And most of
11
the
and then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Hot Springs Island was officially published in 2017 by Swordfish Island Games. The primary author was Jacob Hurst, and it came originally in 2 books, The Dark of Hot Springs Island, which is the GM's book, and The Field Guide to Hot Springs Island, which is the player's book. You can also get this nifty cloth mat from the website, and I would highly suggest that as the price is low and the quality is high. We're going to start with this book, which is the GM's book. This is The Dark of Hot Springs Island. In this 200-page book, you're going to get a very detailed description of 25 hexes, and within each of those, 3 key locations within the hex, as well as a random encounter for each hex. Across the whole of the island of the Hot Springs Island, you're going to find 6 factions, including the Fuegonauts, which are extraplanar gangsters ruled by an Efreet. There are the Nereids, which are descended from Merid water djinns, basically. There's the Night Axe Ogres, which were bred to be in servitude to the Fuegonauts, but broke the yoke of their enslavement and are now the greatest enemies of the Fuegonauts. There are many various types of elementals, which the previous inhabitants, the elves, used as batteries and pets. There are 3 different types of lizard men in the Hot Spring Islands, and they each have varying cultures and are at odds with one another. There are a few elves left, but due to their Sapopa addiction, not many survived, though the ones that did are truly masters of the arcane. Within the back of the book, there are tables for each faction's specific treasures. There are 42 different detailed NPCs. There's rumor tables. There's a section on the flora and fauna of the Hot Springs Island with some great artwork. There are entire pages of details about the effects of the Sapopa drug if the players end up trying to utilize that. There's an excellent table called the Telecanter, which the players could benefit from by creating some excellent, interesting, and unique magical items. Now, One thing I would say about this book in particular is it's not for kids. There are some graphic depictions of different things within the artwork of this book that I would feel uncomfortable with my kids taking a look at. Also, if you are going to play with a younger audience, you'll certainly want to tone down some of the references to the fertility cult-like civilization of the elves that is now mostly extinct. That being said, if you have the right group and you can approach the game in a mature manner, there's a lot to like here. There is a truly epic story of multiple fallen civilizations that once occupied this amazing island that has so much detail and so much history to it. There are interesting and varied takes on different plants and different animals on the island that will really get your creative juices going and will make your players have to think. These aren't just your standard trolls and bugbears that you're going to find on the Hot Springs Island. No, they're going to have to think about the clues and the different things that they will learn about these different species to see how to approach each and whether they are a friend or a foe. Overall, the GM's book is quite impressive, especially for a book that has no statistics in it. That's right, this book is completely system neutral. It is going to obviously work a little bit easier for systems that are relatively rules light or can handle on-the-fly play simply. However, even if you wanted to play in a crunchier system, like perhaps a 5e, there are people that have statted out the entire book, and you can find those documents quite easily online if you were so inclined. So, with this book, you have the ability to just drop your players in and let them go explore. There's 25 hexes with 75 different key locations and lots of inferred locations that aren't fully detailed just by the history and the interactions between the factions. And this is the 200-page GM's Guide, The Dark of Hot Springs Island.
The world used to be a bigger place.
The world's still the same. It's just less in it.
Now, this product would have been good enough with just what we have in The Dark of Hot Springs Island. But they didn't stop there, and that's what takes this over the top for me. This field guide to Hot Springs Island is more than just a book aimed at players wanting to learn more about the game they're going to be playing. This is a book aimed at the player's characters. That's right. This is written as an in-world resource, and it's produced as such. It's got this nice leatherette side to it. Originally, the Dark of Hot Springs Island also had a cover that was similar to this, but it was all black, and the skull was kind of imprinted into the leather. I upgraded mine to a newer print because I like the cover. Whenever the players open this, they're going to see a partially filled out key to the hexes in the Hot Springs Islands. That's because this book belonged to B. French, who was an explorer in the employ of the Martel Company. And the entire book is written from the point of view of characters in the world that have learned about the island through their exploration. It's 248 pages, and it goes into various different areas. It describes many of the plants. It describes many of the beasts that you might find. There's the crystal frog, or the coppermane prowler, or the copperback, or the giant centipede. The Vidarak seeker. Most of the book is actually kind of these naturalistic depictions of the animals that have been found by the explorers that have written this book collectively for the Martell Company. And they're going to have size, diet, social, habitat, den, what they do in combat, what you could salvage from them that are useful, and then a little bit of information about them as well. There's also some information about the different occupants of the Hot Springs Island, some of the imps and the different factions. And the whole thing is written from that in-world perspective. So this is a book that you can just hand to your players and say, here, your characters found this. Learn what you will from it. The great thing is that because this is written as a series of stories and observations by different characters that have explored the Hot Springs Island, they're not the most reliable narrator. They're not necessarily dishonest, they're just not reliable. They don't have perfect information. But within these pages, you're going to find detailed accounts of ancient alphabets, beasts, plants, residents, key locations, and even trade tables between the factions. So with very minimal effort, if you're playing in a system that is accommodating to play on the fly, and if you're comfortable statting out a few creatures, your players are really going to appreciate the opportunity to explore the amazing Hexcrawl adventure that is the Hot Springs Islands. If you did enjoy the content, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.